right now. So welcome to the Chile Fiesta. This is my monthly webinar, Gardening Made Simple, trying to help you understand different things about your gardens and your farms and different crops you're out there. And so what I'm going to talk about today is about hot peppers. And instead of having a PowerPoint presentation for this one, I bought a bowl full of peppers and I'm going to walk through them. And I just realized I forgot a jar. Anyway, that's life. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through, I'm going to talk about some different types of peppers, the ones that were easy for me to harvest today. And I'm going to talk about their Scoville ratings. That's how hot they are. And from there, and that's the big thing I want to talk about, is just the diversity of peppers and the different types. And I'll talk a little bit about seed saving. And then I'm going to talk a bit about lacto fermentation briefly. And then I'm going to answer any questions you have. And so that's what we'll jump into. So to start off with, some peppers like this are very sweet and have no spice at all. This is a Doe Hill pepper. And then other peppers like this one are very spicy. This is a orange habanero and will burn most people's mouths. And then there's some in between. And this looks quite spicy. This one doesn't look as spicy. I don't have any like bell peppers, but you get a bell pepper or an Italian pepper. Those aren't spicy. However, you can't really tell from the outside. And I got these two, which look almost exactly the same. This is a Jimmy Nardella, long and skinny. This is a Georgia Flame, a little bit wider and narrower. And this one is not spicy at all. This one's a bit spicy. And then I also have a red cayenne, which is very spicy. So you can't just tell by the look. They can all have similar appearances and not be spicy. Now, the way you tell is you taste it. If you're really afraid of tasting it, you can take a toothpick, sorry, and put it through, take the toothpick out and touch it to your tongue. And something that's not spicy, you won't feel anything. Something like this Georgia Flame, which is not very hot, you'll barely feel it. But if you're having something like a habanero, this is going to burn your tongue. Just that little pick from the toothpick. So that's the way that you can taste something if you're really uncertain whether it's hot or not. You got to make sure you go through the middle of it, because one of the things is it's not the skin of the peppers that's spicy. It's the inside, the flesh inside, I think it's the placenta, is inside with the seeds on it. That's where the heat is. And so sometimes when you just take the flesh, you don't feel the heat until you get into the middle of it. So that's just a heads up. Now, the rating that is used to measure the heat of peppers is called Scovilles, and it's named after Mr. Scoville, who created this rating. And what a Scoville is the number of times you have to dilute a certain amount of hot pepper or a certain amount of pepper to not taste the heat. So something that has a 1,000 Scoville rating is if you have 1,000 parts of water for 1 part of pepper, you'll no longer feel the heat. So that's a Scoville rating of 1,000. If it's 100,000 Scovilles, that means that you have to dilute it 100,000 times before you don't taste the heat. If it's 1,000,000 Scovilles, you have to dilute it 1,000,000 times. So 1,000,000 is much spicier than 1,000 Scovilles, and 1,000 Scovilles isn't very much. And so I'm going to now go through the peppers I have in my bowl, and I'll talk about the pepper, and I'm going to talk about the Scoville rating. And so I'm going to start off at 0 Scovilles. And 0 Scovilles, these are sweet peppers. These peppers have no heat in them, and you can use them for anything. You can give them to children, and there's no problem. And so, the bell peppers that you get in grocery stores are sweet peppers. There's a lot of Italian peppers that are sweet peppers. And the two I have here that I've got for my garden is the Doe Hill, which is a mini bell pepper. And this one is totally mild. And if I bite into it, there's no heat at all. This is Jimmy Nardello. These are both peppers that we offer in our catalog. This is an Italian heirloom. It's a frying pepper, so you can slice it up. It's thin-walled, cooks really quickly. This is more of a, you just the same way a bell pepper, but it's much sweeter than any bell pepper you've probably eaten. Great for stuffing. They're also really cute. So this is a 0 Scoville. This is just sweet peppers. Now, if I go the next notch up, I get into the realm of mild heat. And mild doesn't mean none. And so something that's tricky when you talk about hot peppers, if you talk to somebody who eats a lot of hot peppers and really hot, there's a whole range of from really not so hot to very hot. But if you talk to somebody who's never eaten hot peppers or barely does, that almost all heat is unbearable and some is really unbearable. So when I talk about mild heat, you always have to understand that that's in context of a range of peppers. And so the Georgia Flame, this is one of my favorite peppers, is very mild. And this is probably something between 1 and 5,000 Scoville, so not very hot at all. And sometimes, like, so maybe I've ruined my mouth eating too many hot stuff, but I can barely taste the heat in this. This is pickled or roasted, is delicious, just has a light level of heat in it. And this is probably my favorite, just casual hot eating pepper. So this is a 1 to 5,000 Scoville, and that is really low heat. And so it's called mild or very mild. I wouldn't call them very mild peppers, but they're not the sweet peppers. They're very mild peppers. Next up in my bucket, I've got some jalapenos. They almost look like serranos, but they're jalapenos. And jalapenos usually go from 5,000 to 15,000 Scoville. So not really hot in the big scheme of things, but hotter than the Georgia Flame. And these are still, I would still call them mild heat. A lot of people think about jalapenos as being quite hot, but they're not particularly hot. And sometimes even some cultivars, when you eat them, you'll barely taste any heat. You know, it's like 1 in 10 that'll be pretty hot, which can be exciting. It's kind of like a shishito pepper. And one thing I want to mention, I should have started with this, is peppers always start green or sometimes purple, and then if they have enough time to mature, sometimes a little bit light yellow too, green yellow, but the green or purple, they're going to get to be red or bright yellow or a bright orange, you know. So this is an immature pepper, kind of like an immature tomato, and a mature pepper. So that's what we see right here with jalapeno going from immature to mature. Probably a little bit more heat in the mature, but they're still mild peppers. So Georgia Flame, very mild. Jalapeno would be mild. Then going up a little bit, you get into a range of peppers that are close to like 20 to 30,000 Scovilles. And these are a medium heat. And, you know, almost everybody will find them a bit hot. So this is a carrot bomb pepper. We also have some cherry bombs, which are red, but this is a carrot bomb pepper. And this is, I particularly love this one because I bred it. I selected it over the last 10, 12 years and have developed this pepper. And so this is a medium heat pepper. It's so 20 to 30,000. So it starts to get to the point where most people are going to notice the heat in this, and but it's not very intense. So that's the 20 to 30 thou. Now, when you get 40 to 60 thou is where you're in a hot pepper. And this is officially hot. And so a cayenne is a really good example of a hot pepper. And this is going to burn most people's mouth if you just bite it like that. You can take one hot cayenne and you put it in a chili and you can cook it and the heat's going to go through the whole chili. I mean, depends how big your pot is, but so you're getting to quite a bit of heat with the cayenne, and this is where the world of hot peppers really begins. The stuff before it does have heat, but it's on the milder side. And so I have another one that's about the same heat. This is a lemon drop. So I've mentioned a few favorite peppers. I got my Georgia Flame, which is my favorite in terms of like mild heat. You could it's a delicious flavor, a little bit of heat there. You know, I love the carrot bomb because I bred it. It's also good. And then this is another of my favorites. This is the lemon drop. And the lemon drop it's actually a different species pepper. For your garden, it doesn't matter. You'll see it grows a little bit different, but it's a different species of pepper. And this has a thin wall like a cayenne does, but it's bright yellow and it has a citrusy taste. And this is a lemon drop pepper. So it has nothing to do with lemon other than the color and a bit of a citrusy taste. And this is also about 40,000 Scovilles. And you'll notice they're similar kind of heat, but because they're different species of peppers, the heat tastes a little bit different. But most people, for the average eater, that you're in the area that this is what they're thinking about. Heat level is hot, and that's that's a hot pepper. Now there's a big jump. There are stuff that's like 70 or 80,000, but there's a big jump getting into the 100 to 300,000 Scovilles. So that's a lot more pronounced than these cayennes and lemon drops. And that's the world of the habaneros. And I only have habaneros here, but there's Scotch bonnets and paper lanterns. And these peppers are a different species also, and they are very hot. So the 100,000 to 300,000, I'll call very hot. This is going to burn your mouth. You just put a little bit into a dish. It's a very particular flavor, very sweet peppers. They are delicious. And there's some parts in the world where people make jams out of these and eat them regularly, but then there's also some other parts where you just can't handle this. And so this is a habanero, so at 100 to 300,000 Scovilles. And I think that for most people, this is hot enough. This is very, very hot. There is another category of pepper even hotter than this. And so as I called cayennes hot, and this is very hot, that next level I would call stupid hot. And not that you're stupid if you enjoy it, but it's kind of stupid to be trying to strive to get something that intense. And we're getting into Scovilles that are 1 to 2 million. And so I don't have any right here. We don't have any in our garden this year, but something we offer some years is the Trinidad scorpion pepper, which is on the lower edge of that really, really hot. And but ghost peppers are in that category. I think currently the record breaker, and I might be wrong about this, is the Carolina Reaper. So these are peppers that are incredibly hot. You can hurt yourself if you're not ready for it. And it's a finite amount of people who really can only enjoy those. For most people, if you like heat, a habanero is going to be more than enough for you. Now, you can get into even more Scovilles than 2 million, but you tend to be getting into pepper extracts or maybe even pepper spray. But we're not going to get into that. But so that's the range of peppers. And when you get into habaneros and you get into the really, really hot peppers, in that case, cold climates like ours are a little bit tricky to get a lot. Whereas when you go to peppers that are up until the hot level, these tend to be fairly early peppers. You can get them covered with peppers in your garden, and you can produce a lot. The habanero we have is borderline. It does produce a lot in our climate, but if you're a bit warmer, it would even do better. And like in our greenhouse, we even get more peppers than if we get them in the field. And what some people will actually do with these habaneros and some of those other peppers is they're going to dig them up at the end of the season, put them in pots, overwinter them, and then next year plant them in. And having that second year, because we grow peppers as annuals in our climate. The winter kills them, but in their native climate, peppers can be perennials. So they're basically little trees. So you can dig it up and bring it back out the next year, and it'll be covered in fruit. In flowers first and then fruit, and you can get a lot of peppers doing that, which is pretty exciting. And so what's up next? So I wanted to talk a little bit about seed saving and so there are a few different species of peppers, and there's 3 peppers of species of peppers that I've talked about today. There's the chinensis, which is the habaneros. There's frutescens, which includes these lemon drops, and then there's the annuums, which includes pretty much everything else. Is like this and this and this. These are all the same species, and So generally what species mean, if you grow two peppers of different species, they shouldn't cross with one another. And if you grow two peppers of the same species, like this, and you grow them side by side, there's a chance there's going to be a cross-pollination. And that means that some of these genes will get into, like, so the pollen from this one might go into the flower of this one, and you can get a hybrid. And that's when we bred this carrot bomb. This is something that we is a cross like that, a random cross that we selected out afterwards. So the crosses are still edible. But the important thing to note is that hot peppers and sweet peppers can be in the same species, and they can cross-pollinate together. And so if you have a sweet pepper and you're growing it beside a hot pepper and they cross, then some of the fruit that, so in the year that you grow it, so if this is cross-pollinated with a hot pepper, all the fruit are still mild the year you get it. It's the next year when you save the seed, you're going to grow it out. There's going to be some hot peppers amongst that. And you might not notice them right away. And that's going to be a little surprise when you taste it. First, you'll notice something a little bit different. And then when you taste it, you'll see it's spicy. So I have a couple thoughts. The first is, I don't think you should be afraid of cross-pollination. So if you have an orange bell pepper beside a red bell pepper beside a yellow Italian pepper, and they're all sweets, you can grow them side by side, and I don't think you should worry about them cross-pollinating. Peppers don't cross-pollinate very much. Maybe 1 in 20 fruit are going to cross-pollinate. And so the next year, you'll see a couple different ones, but most of it will be like what the mother plant was. And I think that's really great to have a little bit of diversity show up. But you want them to all be sweet. So I think the important thing is to grow your hot peppers on one side of your garden and your other peppers on the other side of your garden. And if they're like 20 feet apart, they're going to cross. But if they're like 100 feet apart, you won't see very much, if any, crossing between hot and sweet. So that's one thought. The other thought is habaneros sometimes cross with these other peppers. So I would probably, for most gardeners, I would just ignore the species and just assume that peppers will cross together and grow the hot peppers separate from the sweet peppers. So that's my seed saving. To save the seed, if you take your pepper, so this is a sweet pepper, and so I don't feel bad. I would just, all right, I have another one. I don't want to get rid of all my sweets because I'm giving this presentation afterwards. I'll go pick another one. I'm giving this presentation again in French afterwards. So I would open it up, and inside, you got the insides, and there are your seeds. And so you just rub them off onto paper towel and let them dry for a couple weeks. And there you are. That's your seed saving. The other thing you have to always do is write the name down. So this is a Doe Hill pepper. I'd write Doe Hill on the sheet that I did. And then once it's really dry, I'm going to put the seeds into an envelope and I'll write Doe Hill 2022. It's really important to also know what year you produced them, because the older the seed, the less chance they'll germinate. Just gives you an idea. And now I mentioned how peppers start off green and then they turn color. So when it's green, the seed will be immature. You have to wait until the fruit is pretty ripe to mature, to harvest it, but your seed will be fine. So it's the same thing with your hot peppers. You can open them up and there's the seed on the inside. So peppers are really good for seed saving and also cooking with, because you can keep that flesh. So you have your hot pepper, you can slice it, take the heart out, put the seed somewhere, and all that skin, you can use it. And then if you're trying to have it not too spicy, by taking out the middle, it's going to be even a little bit less spicy than it was if you left the seeds in. So that's the seed saving. And last up that I'm going to talk about, and on our website, we have a recipe for an easy lacto fermented hot sauce. And that's my favorite way to make a hot sauce. And essentially, I get a bunch of ingredients, that a diversity of peppers to have different tastes in function of the heat level I want, some peppers, some sweet peppers, because I like to add a bit of sweetness in, carrots. I think carrots are one of the secret things to hot sauce to make them sweet, onions and garlic, a lot of onions and garlic. And I'll mix them into a blender and blend it up. And then I weigh the weight of all the ingredients I have, and I will weigh, I'm going to do the math of 2%. 2% of that weight is the amount of salt I'm going to add into the actually, now I'm wondering if it's 5%. I should check this out, but it's 2 or 5%. Check the recipe. I'll weigh that. I'll figure out that much salt, and then I'll mix it in, and then I will put it into a crock. I don't have a crock or a mason jar here, but it's basically a container. So pretend this is a mason jar. Fill it up with my mixture, and so the salt's already mixed in there. And what I want to do is add a weight into it to push the solids beneath the surface of the liquid. And so it might be that you take a cup and you fill it with water, you put on, or you put a plate or like a little container lid, and you put it on, and you want that lid to just push the liquid down a bit and seal, make an anaerobic seal for the fermentation to happen. And you let it sit on your counter for 2 to 3 weeks, and then you can taste it regularly. And when it's ready, it's good. And that's a hot sauce that will store for a while. You got to keep it in the fridge because the fermentation keeps going. You could can it, but then that's going to kill whatever live stuff's going on in the fermentation. But you keep it in your fridge, and it should serve you the whole year. That's a good way to make a sauce that's fairly easy. So those are the main things that I wanted to share today. Now, I don't know if you have any questions. I know it's a little bit of a smaller group than usual. So if you have any questions, please drop them into the chat and I will answer them. Though I think I might also just wrap it up for now and get ready for the next talk that I'll be giving in French in a moment. I actually have a couple slides. I wanted to just do an end of slides. Let me just get those up. So what I'm showing right here. So I've got my, I just want to bring that we have on our online store. I should push our stuff. On our online store, have a section of sweet peppers and hot peppers, and you can check those out. And you can, if you're looking for hot peppers, we're just finishing the harvest right now, so there'll be more and more peppers over the next month showing up, and so we're happy to help you that way. And yes, we're at fermentation.qc.ca. You can also find us on Instagram as @fermentation. And I do a gardening workshop every month, so that's what this is today. And what I'm going to do in October is going to be all about squash and pumpkin. We're going to talk about different varieties, talk about growing them, talking about storing them, talk a bit about seed saving and crossing. So all of that is going to be on October 17th. And I look forward to seeing some of you there at that point. So thank you so much for going through this, and have a great continuation of your day. Take care of yourselves.